Hello everybody, John Joel back here again with another video, and today I bring you another Dragon Ball Z topic video. Now today is probably the first Dragon Ball Z topic video I've done in a pretty decent amount of time. I think the last one I did was realistically, the last DBZ videos I've made are obviously the Dragon Ball Super topic videos I've done, which of course if you've not seen yet, go back to my channel to check them out. But nonetheless, the actual last topic video that I've done, I think was the Beerus video, which was me discussing, Beerus and his influence on Earth and whether or not he actually destroyed the dinosaurs and what have you. If you haven't seen that as well, please go check it out on my channel. But that being said, I've been wanting to do this specific topic for a long time now, but I haven't had the real amount of free time. But now that I do, I think it's about time to really open up the discussion as to whether or not Bulma is important to the Dragon Ball Z series. Now, back when I did my review on the Dragon Ball Z web series, fan-made series by Robot Underdog, which was Dragon Ball Z Light of Hope, I definitely got a lot of comments, as I think, regardless of where my YouTube may or may not go, Dragon Ball Z, as of right now, the Dragon Ball Z Light of Hope Episode 1 review I did has to go down in history as one of the most controversial reviews I've ever done. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I had a lot to say with it. A lot of people who did reviews on it, I don't think got as extensive and constructive as I did. I think I have to be one of the most, I don't want to say the biggest fans, that's probably the worst thing I could say right now, but the biggest thing that I can say about my review is that it has to be the most constructive review on YouTube at the time. I don't know about now. I'm pretty sure there's tons of other YouTubers who had, come with their own reviews and their own critiques of the actual episode itself, but at the end of the day, I had a lot to say about the overall episode, and even though I had a lot that I had to say that were, obviously unfortunate, and things that I disliked, and things that really bummed me out about the episode itself, there were a lot of things I enjoyed about the episode. There was a lot of things that I really came to love about the episode. I mean, there's a lot in that episode that I really enjoy and really entertained me, which is why I enjoyed it. I gave it a review, I freaking gave it a great rating, and people still bitched about it. And obviously one of the biggest things that I personally had a problem with the review and the actual episode itself was the fact that Bulma had very little to do with the episode itself. Now, regardless of how anybody feels, Bulma is actually very important in the History of Trunks storyline. Now, watching the episode, granted it's a very short episode, so you can't really get a lot to do, but, there is an actual sequence of Bulma, and there's not really that much, premise, and there's not really that much, presence with the actual characters on screen as Bulma and Kid Trunks. And I said this in my review, and I still believe in it, which is Bulma's relationship with Trunks is just as important as Trunks' relationship with Adult Gohan. They're equally as important, and if you can't get that across through your storytelling and through your writing and through your actual visuals, then I feel that you failed. And regardless of how awesome that episode pilot was, I still feel that they failed at giving me the full extent of Trunks and Bulma's relationship together. They have a very close relationship together, and I don't think they really got 100% through with the episode. I stated that in my review. A lot of people got off on me. A lot of people were like, hey, Bulma's not important to Dragon Ball Z. She's useless. She has nothing to do with this series, so why are you bitching? Those people are idiots. Bulma has a lot to do with the series, and without Bulma, a lot of things in the series don't actually get to happen. And it goes a lot with the hero. The main character is just as important as everything that's around. If everything around the main hero is not as important, then the hero is less important. It's kind of like, it kind of goes back to the villain. Like, if the villain is not important, if you don't have a great villain, then you don't have a great hero. The characters come into play as well. Every character that's a secondary character in comparison to the main one is just as important and makes the main protagonist important. It kind of goes back into The Flash. If you've not seen The Flash, spoilers, but there's a specific episode, I want to say like episode 2 or what have you, go back and check it out, but there's a specific episode where Barry Allen has a monologue with his teammates, which is obviously Caitlin and Cisco and Wells at the time, and whoever was in the room at the time of this monologue. And there's a specific monologue that I'm paraphrasing, of course, where Barry states that you're all important, and when I'm out there, it's like we're all heroes. And that really means a lot, and that kind of goes with every great hero in any kind of medium. Without the friends, without the family, without all the secondary characters, you don't have a great main hero. The main hero is nothing without everyone that's around him. Without everyone around Goku's not important, because then he's just this all-powerful character that has nothing to do. So every character around him is just as important as he is, regardless of screen time. And that's how I feel about everyone, especially the female characters, because I know Dragon Ball Z overall has a very male-oriented audience, and obviously, hell, the main characters are mostly males, but the female characters are very important with Dragon Ball Z. Hell, one of my most popular videos on YouTube is my top 5 DBZ female characters. So obviously there's a huge audience for the female characters, and there's a lot of people who love the female characters of DBZ regardless of screen time. So saying that a female character, especially a female character like Bulma, has no importance to Dragon Ball Z, the series, the franchise, or hell, even anime in general, then you're just stupid. And I created a list that I'm holding right now, discussing the reasons as to why Bulma is important to the series itself. Now, without me ranting even more, because I'm pretty much ranting for like 10 minutes already, let's just get right into the video itself, the topic itself. Now, of course, everything is basically not in any kind of particular order, but regardless, this is basically me discussing the main reasons as to why she's important. And hopefully by the end of this list, people who find Bulma useless and personally don't think she adds anything to the series, hopefully you have a change of heart and find out that the female characters of DBZ actually do more than just, bitch and moan and, basically give birth to other Saiyans on the freaking series. Nonetheless, let's get into this list. Number 1, meeting Goku. Without Bulma, there is no Goku. Goku is only existing in this universe, in this specific story, in this specific adventure, and all the adventures to come because of Bulma. If in the beginning of Z, beginning in the series overall, Bulma meets Goku during her adventures to find the Dragon Balls. Without that important moment, Goku would always be in the woods. He had never come in contact with other human beings, and he would be doing God knows what in the wilderness. He would never have had the many adventures and storylines to follow. Which comes to my second point, the adventures. Without Bulma, there are no adventures. Bulma puts Goku on a specific path that puts him through the adventures and great story arcs that we have in Dragon Ball overall. Thirdly, the Dragon Radar. The Dragon Radar is obviously created by Bulma, and without the Dragon Radar, you cannot find the Dragon Balls that are spread out throughout planet Earth, and obviously on planet Namek on future storylines. Moving off of that, Capsule Corp. She is obviously the main CEO of Capsule Corporations, which is obviously, and I stated this in multiple other videos, jokingly obviously, that Capsule Corp is essentially the Apple of freaking Dragon Ball universe. Capsule Corporation creates all the technology of the Dragon Ball Z universe. Everything's created by Capsule Corp. You have a radio, it's created by Capsule Corp. You have a phone, it's created by Capsule Corp. You have a little freaking tiny pen you freaking throw on the ground, it pops up freaking house. Capsule Corp created that shit. Capsule Corp is run by Bulma and of course her father and possibly even thousands of other scientists. Who the heck knows that we never get to see, but she's in charge of all that shit, and she's obviously one of the many creators, along with her father, who creates majority of the technologies on this universe. Moving off of that, she has a very Leia syndrome. Without Bulma, you don't have the template, she's the archetypal shonen female character. Without Bulma, you don't have many other female anime characters post Dragon Ball. So you don't have any of the female Naruto characters. You have none of the Bleach characters. You have none of the One Piece characters. Every single shonen female character post Dragon Ball would not exist if it weren't for Bulma. And I call it the Leia syndrome because she has the same kind of effect on the audience of Dragon Ball that Leia has in the Star Wars universe. Kind of like when young male adolescents, or mostly young adolescents at the time, who got to see the original trilogy at its first viewing and got to see Leia. Leia was like the introduction to women, to young male adolescents at the time. Bulma's kind of same thing, where if you were a young male at the time growing up in the 90s where Dragon Ball first came out and you got to, or in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, you got to see Bulma for the first time, that was like your introduction to girls in general. So, and I like to call it the Leia syndrome because they kind of have similar kind of traits and they're kind of like the same to a certain extent. And on top of that, they have the same kind of, when you look at it realistically, they feel like they're kind of like the same character, except in different universes. Like, Bulma kind of feels to me like the Princess Leia of the Dragon Ball universe. I always kind of felt like, let me know what you personally think about that. I don't know. For me, that always kind of felt like they were the same kind of character. But moving off of that, spaceships. She created the spaceships of the Dragon Ball universe when they were obviously stuck on Earth and they needed to go to planet Namek to obviously save the rest of their friends after the Saiyan arc. Obviously, the only spaceship that could be used was Kami's spaceship when he used to escape planet Namek and to obviously come to Earth. She, and of course probably her father and dozens of other scientists that we never got to see on screen, obviously revamped the spaceship to use it to obviously go to planet Namek. And obviously, along with her father, she probably created various other spaceships that were used by, obviously, characters like Goku and Vegeta. But moving off of that, she also gave Vegeta a home. Without Bulma, Vegeta would have no reason to live on Earth. And Vegeta living on Earth and living specifically in Captain's Corp has a lot to do with Bulma. Obviously, this is during the story arc where they're obviously supposed to get together. But regardless of that kind of aspect, she's the reason as to why Vegeta has a home on Earth. Moving off that, of course, she's the mother of Trunks. Without Bulma, there is no Trunks. For a lot of people, Future Trunks is probably everyone's favorite character on Dragon Ball Z, and possibly has the greatest freaking story arc out of every character in Dragon Ball Z, with the exception of Goku and Vegeta. And on top of that, Trunks is a badass. Without that badass, there is no really awesome storylines. And without Trunks, they would have no reason to ever have knowledge of the future threat, which is, of course, the androids in Cell. Moving off that, the time machine. Bulma creates the time machine. Without the time machine, Trunks has no way of going back in time to hopefully stop the events that lead to his future. Moving off of that, the android rebuilds and devices. What I mean by that is that during the Cell arcs, Bulma is the actual person who rebuilt Android 16. Without Bulma, Android 16 would have never been reconstructed and would have been any kind of help towards the Cell threat. And a lot of people think, okay, well that's kind of interesting, but that's also kind of pointless too, sir. Well, you're wrong, because without Android 16, Gohan would have had no reason to become a Super Saiyan 2. So yeah, that's also kind of like a tread to find out whose importance is to why Goku's a Super Saiyan 2. Well, if you follow the real trail, it's actually Bulma. And also what I mean by device, Bulma is actually the creator of the device that was supposed to be used to deactivate the android, specifically Android 18, which obviously never came to fruition because of Krillin not wanting to use it, obviously over his internal love for Android 18. Moving off of that, bringing the band back together. What I mean by that is, Bulma's the reason why all the characters of Dragon Ball Z always come back together. Every single time there's adventures, and every single time prior to a story arc, it's always because of a great party/meetup. Kind of similar, like, the biggest example that I can give is essentially like Battle of Gods. Without Bulma, there would be no reason as to why all these characters come back together. And that has a lot to do with various other storylines in the Dragon Ball Z series, where without Bulma, none of the characters really come back together to really fight as a team like they used to do back in Dragon Ball. So that has another reason as to why Bulma's important. Moving off of that, a GT reason. I know GT's not really canon, and a lot of people don't like GT. But here's a good reason as to why Bulma's important in that series. Bulma never had a really big part in GT. I'm going to admit that. She didn't have a big part in GT, and most of the scenes that she does have importance in, she's actually being controlled mentally by, obviously, the creature Baby, which was, obviously, if you've never seen GT spoilers, Baby was a cybernetic AI kind of liquidy kind of creature who had a hatred for Saiyans and wanted to destroy the Earth and what have you. Nonetheless, I'm pretty sure none of you care because GT, for a lot of people, really sucks. But that being said, without Bulma in GT, there is no Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. And without a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, there is no Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Bulma created a device that shoots out blood waves, it's like there's a specific sequence. It's hard to explain because, you know, obviously all of these great devices are all make-believe, so it's kind of hard to explain. But regardless, you have to see it to believe it. Nonetheless, that being said, she creates this ray gun device that shoots out blood waves, energy, that shoots into Vegeta, causing him to become a great ape, and realizing consciousness. Once he does that, obviously develops the Super Saiyan 4 transformation. Without that device that Bulma creates, Vegeta never becomes a Super Saiyan 4, which is unfortunate, and possibly even a Super Saiyan 5 if GT ever went on further, because based off prior talks with Bulma and Vegeta discussing the device, it's quite possible that you could use that device to become a Super Saiyan 5, which is a transformation that no one has ever seen, with the exception of the fan-made versions. Moving off of that, of course, lastly, and this is more jokingly, of Bulma's importance, is Bulma slapping Beerus in Battle of Gods. Bulma slaps Battle of Gods, which has to be the most boss moment that any other female character on Dragon Ball Z has had in a very long time. Name another female character on Dragon Ball that has been able to take on a main character at this point in time without no prior knowledge of the character, and fully realizing the fact that this character is pretty much a god of destruction and has the power to destroy universes. She goes right up into his face and slaps him. That's a pretty boss moment, and I really appreciate the importance of her doing that. And on top of that, obviously the retaliation is Vegeta becoming enraged and having the most epic moment within that actual movie, which is him transforming to a Super Saiyan and taking on Beerus. Of course, at the end of the day, we already know how that ends up, but regardless, that was probably one of my favorite moments in the entire movie at all, and that's, of course, the reasoning behind the importance of that sequence is because of Bulma. Moving off of that, lastly, Resurrection F. Fugatsu no F. I have yet to see the movie, so I can't really use this as a point of reference because I've not seen the movie. But based off what I've heard and what I've seen, Bulma has an intricate part in that movie. Number one, Vegeta and Goku, based off my knowledge of the film, are on the planet that Whis and Beerus are on. And on that planet, they're training with Whis. They have no prior knowledge of Frieza having any kind of activity on Earth until Bulma communicates with them and tells them to come back so they can help defeat Frieza once and for all. So, I have not seen the film, so I don't know how all this kind of comes into place. So, obviously, I'm just going to use this as kind of just as a lastly kind of thing, and mostly a jokingly kind of thing. But regardless, without Bulma, they would have never realized Frieza was on Earth trying to destroy the entire planet. Then they would never have no reason to come over, stop Frieza, save the day, and have an epic, awesome time doing it. So, as much as I would love to continue talking, I am pretty beat and disgusted with myself for knowing so much information on something that probably a lot of people would consider completely pointless and useless. But that being said, these are the main reasons that I kind of just threw together at one, point in time, just randomly, and tried to get the point across that Bulma is important to the Dragon Ball series. There's a lot of people out there that believe she's not. So hopefully by this list that I've created in the span of probably like 5 seconds, hopefully everyone who had a prior aspect that Bulma's not important, hopefully looks at this list that I've created and hopefully realizes that Bulma is important. I stated this once and I'll state it again. Without the hero's friends and family and all the characters surrounding him or her, there is no importance to the main character. Goku is as big as a hero because of the people he cares about. That has a lot to do with his character. And Bulma has a humongous importance to that. She's the person who puts this all into perspective and puts this into place. Without any of the adventures, without any of the technologies, without any of the help and the multiple kind of reasonings, we would have none of the great story arcs we have because of this great character. So hopefully by the end of this video you learned something, if you were a hater, if you will, of Bulma, and hopefully you realize that she's really important to the series, and hopefully you have a new appreciation for the character. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment below, let me know what you personally thought about my list that I've created here in the span of like 5 seconds, 5 seconds. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And of course, hopefully you, or if you're a fan of Bulma, hopefully you go off and change other people's perspectives and opinions of the character. And if you were a non-fan, I really encourage you to look at this list and realize that she's very important. And also, comment below, let me know what you personally thought about this topic overall. And hopefully you guys can create an entirely new discussion based off the character itself. That being said, I think this is where I leave you guys. This is going to be the end of my DBZ topic for today. That being said, I do have another topic, DBZ topic that I have in mind to create, which is, of course, Dragon Ball Z. This is the title, working title, if you will. Dragon Ball Z versus Marvel. I had a specific comment thrown to me. I think I mentioned it in my Dragon Ball podcast, where it was called... The comment was basically, I'm paraphrasing, the comment was basically, no character on Dragon Ball Z could ever beat any character on Marvel. So, you know what? Based off that comment, I'm going to make an entire Dragon Ball Z topic discussing the fact as to why any character on Dragon Ball Z could possibly defeat the entire Marvel universe, and possibly vice versa. So if you're a Marvel fan, you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you want to know my personal thoughts on those two universes colliding in amazing biblical proportion, let me know in the comments below on your personal thoughts on that. But nonetheless, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Of course, go back to check out my Super Kaioken episode 6. It's a podcast I do. And of course, check out my newest Dragon Ball Z Super topic discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been John 12.